Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back to Woo Can Cook. My name is Wesley, and this is a show where we are slowly cooking our way through all of the food from my childhood. Today we're diving back into our series dedicated to Asian fusion cuisine with a dish that I've been workshopping for the Woo Can Cook pop-up for quite some time now, which is a Shanghainese lion's head meatball sandwich, or shi zi tou. For those unfamiliar, a lion's head meatball is a traditional Shanghainese classic, most iconically made with larger tennis ball-sized pork meatballs, then braised with bok choy and dark soy sauce, and finally served family-style with rice. For those looking, not too long ago, we also did a more traditional version of shi zi tou over rice, but today, as you can imagine, a meatball sub like the one that we're doing today has absolutely no business appearing in Chinese cuisine. The meatball sub, of course, originating from Italian-American cuisine. So, for our version today, we'll be using one of my very favorite combinations of sauces to create our deep and rich braising sauce, while also making a handful of small but very important adjustments to our dish to accommodate our sub. Most particularly, this will include some adjustments to the size and shape of both our bok choy as well as our meatballs, plus a fun lesson in what happens if you don't bind your meatballs properly that I learned the hard way. Okay, so let's get into it.
I've got the time to think about who I want to be. Every morning when I wake, it's the man I chose to be. I've got the time to think about where my dreams are taking me.
Okay, so diving right in here, we're kicking things off with some aromatic veggies to form the basis of our umami, which today will be appearing in both our meatballs as well as our stir fry. This means that we'll be doubling our quantities here today. So this is 8 cloves, or about half a head, of crushed and minced garlic to start, followed by 2 inches or about 2 tablespoons of finely minced ginger. As you'll notice, we're setting half of each of these aside with our mise en place for our stir fry, with the remainder going into our largest mixing bowl to go along with our meatballs coming up. Then next up, rounding out our meatballs, is 4 ounces or about half a can of water chestnuts that I'm also mincing and tossing into my mixing bowl as well. Now, for those not familiar, a water chestnut is crunchy, sort of like the texture of an apple, but also has little to no discernible flavor to it. So, mainly what we're looking for from these today is the textural quality that they can bring to something like a meatball because of its ability to add a nice bit of crunch to our meatball, sort of like a piece of lettuce in a hamburger. Finally, last up, rounding out our veggies, is going to be about 4 ounces of baby bok choy. Now, for me personally, with baby bok choy in a stir fry, I like to cut these into halves and then leave them on the larger side, which works really nicely over rice. This makes it a little bit easier to approach with chopsticks, especially paired with rice. But for our subs today, though, we're going to want these to be a little bit smaller since we want each piece of bok choy to be essentially bite-sized. So, to that end, I'm chopping these up into quarters to give us these nice small strips of bok choy, then giving a quick rinse in cold water to wash them off, and moving on to our meatballs next. Alright, so circling back to our mixing bowl here, we've got half of our garlic and ginger plus our water chestnuts in our mixing bowl already. Then next, I'm following this up with a single pound of ground pork, but as always, ground turkey, chicken, or 80-20 beef chuck would all work just fine as well. Then next, we're binding our meatballs today with a single egg and half a cup of panko breadcrumb. Now, iconically, a shi zi tou is bound using cornstarch, yielding a softer and less dense meatball, which works really nicely on a shared plate. Today, however, I'm going with panko because I actually want my meatballs to have a little bit more density to them so that they hold up in our sandwich. Finally, rounding this all out, I'm pairing my meatballs with a fairly simple marinade since most of our umami is coming from our braising sauce today. This is going to be 4 tablespoons of soy sauce here to start, followed by 2 tablespoons of sesame oil and half a teaspoon each of Chinese 5-spice and white pepper. Then I'm mixing this all up to combine and breaking out my ounce scale here so that we may divide our meatballs up into 1 3/4 ounce pieces, then rolling them into racquetball sized meatballs? I don't know. In any case, we're aiming for these to be on the slightly smaller side today, which again will help us fit the meatballs into a sub a little bit easier. Next up, moving on to our braising sauce, we're going with one of my very favorite combinations for long and slow braises, which focuses around deep, rich umami and malted sweetness. To do this, we're starting off here first with a baseline of 4 tablespoons of soy sauce to start, followed by 1 tablespoon of sesame oil and 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing wine. Then rounding this out are going to be the big 3 umami drivers for today. This is a single tablespoon each of dark soy sauce, black vinegar, and oyster sauce. You'll recognize these 3 ingredients as the same combination used in a lot of our Chinese braised dishes like our lu rou fan, hong shao tofu, and a whole bunch of others. Finally, rounding this all out is going to be 3 tablespoons of chili crisp oil. Now, the chili crisp that I'm using here today is the stuff that we make in the pop-up known as the good shit. And if I'm being honest, I think it actually makes quite a bit of difference because it helps us get a little bit more heat than the jarred stuff does. If you're looking for it, you can find the recipe for this stuff on our dandan mian recipe, or if you do use the jarred stuff, that's also okay too. Just keep in mind that it's adding a little bit more saltiness and a little bit less heat than our house-made chili crisp oil is here. Over on the stove, I've got my wok heating up over medium heat first, then I'm adding 4 tablespoons of peanut oil and, as always, long yao for that nice non-stick surface. Then going in here first are my meatballs, which we're going to par cook by searing for about 2 minutes per side until nicely browned on all sides. I'm checking these with a thermometer here for 160 degrees F internal, but really though, keep in mind that these are also going to head back into the wok for another 30-minute slow braise later on, so they don't really have to be fully cooked through. We're mainly paying attention here to make sure that our meatballs are nice and set before removing, because if we pull them out too early, then they'll break apart in the braise and sad times will be had all around. But Wesley, how do you know that this will happen? Well, internet, I'm so glad that you asked. I messed this step up using a scaled recipe for the pop-up with about 10 pounds of ground pork and ended up with 10 pounds of ground pork slop, which was very, very tragic. Moving on here, I've heated up my wok as hot as possible, now using this reserved pork fat, then giving 1 more long yao and moving on to our stir fry next. Here's my second set of garlic and ginger going in first, followed by my bok choy, which I'm giving a brief 1-minute toss to. Then here's my meatballs going back in, followed by my braising sauce plus about a half cup of water. I'm giving this all a quick toss, then following up with my cornstarch slurry that I forgot to film, but this is 2 tablespoons of cornstarch dissolved in water to thicken up our sauce. Finally, I'm letting this all simmer over low heat for about 30 minutes, adding additional water as needed when it reduces. Then back over on the cutting board, I've got some French rolls here that I grabbed by mistake. What you really want is actually a hoagie roll, but either is gonna work out okay though. In any case, I'm hollowing out the center here, then toasting my rolls before topping them off with our lion's head meatballs, and we're ready to eat. Okay, so those that have been to the Wu Can Cook pop-up may already know that one of our specialties, aside of course from our fried rice, is fun and interesting fusion interpretations of Chinese and Taiwanese classics like this, including fun fried rice burritos, Rodzao Sloppy Joe sliders, and so on. So this is a pretty natural addition to our pop-up menu, and as much as I appreciate the nostalgia of a super traditional lion's head meatball shared on a giant Lazy Susan with my whole family, I gotta say that this meatball sub is a real game changer. I honestly was pretty concerned about structural integrity when I thought up this sandwich, but I actually think that it's not really that much of a problem, particularly when done with a nice sturdy hoagie roll. The smaller shape plus tighter and more dense texture of our meatballs really help hold the sandwich together even when packed full with our savory braising sauce. Then to top this off, I feel like the thumbnail here speaks for itself, but just in case it bears repeating, sweet baby Jesus does this dish pair well with a hoagie roll. The bread does a really nice job of soaking up the deep and rich savory qualities of our sauce, making a nice saucy bed for our meatballs in each bite. Okay, so that's it everyone. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you give this one a shot. For those who are new to the channel, this one is part of a larger series dedicated to fusion recipes, so definitely check out that series next because there's a lot of these. For the Bay Area locals, the Wu Can Cook fried rice pop-up is now at Wonders Brewing in Emeryville every Thursday through Sunday, so come by and say hi then if you can. More about that at wucancook.com/eats. Also a fun update, we've got t-shirts. I'm super excited to be partnering with my good friends at Polywog Prints to make these super sweet Wu Can Cook t-shirts. They're super soft and comfortable and also have a picture of me on the back, which is crazy. We're selling these at the Wu Can Cook pop-up at Wonders Brewing, or you can head over to wucancook.com/shop to grab one of these from the online store too. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, be nice interneters, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
And tell me, do you ever feel